Once Upon a Time in Hollywood 2019. Director Quentin Tarantino. Starring Leonardo DiCaprio, Brad Pitt. One line review: Tarantino's love letter to Hollywood. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is the ninth feature film from Quentin Tarantino, my favorite director and what I like to call the poet of hemoglobin. Inspired by the infamous Tate LaBianca murders of 1969, the film presents an alternate history version of Hollywood. As expected from Tarantino, it's filled with endless dialogue, colorful profanity, an incredible soundtrack, and brutally graphic violence. The story follows aging television actor Rick Dalton, Leonardo DiCaprio, and his stunt double, best friend, and almost alter ego, Cliff Booth, Brad Pitt. Living next door to Rick are acclaimed director Roman Polanski and his wife, Sharon Tate, Margot Robbie. Here's what I liked and didn't like about the film. 1. Casting. The first thing that stood out to me was the cast. Leonardo DiCaprio, who previously delivered an unforgettable performance in Tarantino's Django Unchained, 2012, reunites with the director alongside Brad Pitt, who starred in Inglourious Basterds, 2009. Margot Robbie also joins the ensemble, making this one of the most star-studded casts imaginable. The biggest surprise, however, was seeing Al Pacino appear in the film. Watching Leonardo DiCaprio, Brad Pitt, and Al Pacino share the same frame still feels surreal. 2. Acting with a cast full of legendary actors, it's no surprise that the performances are phenomenal. Brad Pitt perfectly captures Cliff Booth's laid-back confidence with his signature smirk and effortless cowboy charm. Leonardo DiCaprio is equally impressive. Whether Rick Dalton is breaking down emotionally or struggling through a television shoot, DiCaprio handles Tarantino's trademark long, dialogue-heavy scenes with remarkable energy. At one point, even the television crew within the film praises Rick's acting, a fitting reflection of DiCaprio's own performance. 3. Action. It's Quentin Tarantino, so of course there's plenty of bloody, over-the-top violence. The film's explosive climax begins when members of the Manson family invade Rick Dalton's house. The sequence is so graphic that it's easy to understand why the film received an R rating. Before watching the movie, I read about the real Tate LaBianca murders, Charles Manson, and the hippie movement. Because of that background, seeing the Manson family receive such a brutal fictional punishment felt incredibly satisfying. Tarantino understands exactly what kind of catharsis audiences are looking for and delivers it with perfect timing. 4. Music and visuals. Tarantino's talent for selecting music has already been proven throughout his previous 8 films. Rather than relying solely on original compositions, he often incorporates existing songs that perfectly match the mood of each scene. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood continues that tradition. The most memorable moment is when California Dreamin' plays as night falls over Hollywood, and the city's neon signs slowly light up the streets. Whether it was the original recording or another arrangement, the song creates an unforgettable atmosphere. It's also famously associated with Chungking Express, making it another example of Tarantino's impeccable taste in music. Visually, the film is equally impressive. Late 1960s Hollywood is recreated in extraordinary detail. The classic cars, vintage machinery, unfashionable clothing, and the height of hippie culture all make it feel as though you've traveled back to Hollywood in 1969. 5. Story. To be honest, I found the story fairly ordinary. Maybe it's because I'm still young, but the narrative feels as if it has no real beginning or ending. The film simply shows one chapter, 1969, in the lives of its characters. This isn't the first time I felt this way while watching a Tarantino film. I experienced something similar with Pulp Fiction, 1994. That movie only presents a few episodes from Jules and Vincent's lives, focusing on the mysterious briefcase and Butch's storyline. The difference, however, comes down to personal taste. Pulp Fiction left me wanting to stand up and applaud. It's one of my all-time favorite films. When Once Upon a Time in Hollywood ended, my reaction was simply, wait, that's it? Why did I feel so empty afterward? I'll explain in the next part of this review. 6. Unnecessary characters and scenes. I still don't understand why Sharon Tate is such an important character in this film. She reminds me of Mia Wallace, played by Uma Thurman in Pulp Fiction. Both women occupy similar positions within their respective stories. They're connected to the protagonists while belonging to a higher social circle. Sharon is the wife of acclaimed filmmaker Roman Polanski, while Mia is married to crime boss Marcellus Wallace. The key difference is how they interact with the main characters. In Pulp Fiction, Mia spends an entire evening with Vincent Vega. They go out to dinner, perform the iconic dance scene together, and when she overdoses, Vincent desperately tries to save her life. She even tempts him throughout the night. Every scene involving Mia directly influences the story and the protagonist. Sharon Tate, on the other hand, barely interacts with Rick Dalton or Cliff Booth. Until the very end of the film, they don't even share a scene together. Most of her screen time consists of her walking around alone or enjoying parties. The most confusing sequence is when Sharon goes to a movie theater by herself to watch the film she stars in. She quietly watches the audience laugh and enjoy her performance, smiling with satisfaction. But what exactly is this scene trying to say? Compare it with Cliff feeding his dog inside his trailer. That scene isn't just about eating dinner. It contrasts Cliff's modest lifestyle with Rick's luxurious home while also establishing how exceptionally well-trained his dog is, something that later becomes important. Sharon's theater scene doesn't seem to set anything up. Do the audience's reactions become relevant later? No. Does the movie she's watching become important? No. Neither pays off. So why is the scene there? Was Tarantino simply looking for an excuse to focus on Margot Robbie? Or was he using footage from an older film to express his affection for classic Hollywood? Whatever the intention was, I found that most of Sharon Tate's scenes added very little to the story. 7. Bruce Lee. It's impossible to talk about this movie without mentioning Bruce Lee. His brief appearance became one of the film's biggest controversies because many viewers felt Tarantino portrayed him in an unnecessarily arrogant and disrespectful way. During a flashback explaining why Cliff Booth lost his stunt job, Bruce Lee is shown boasting that stunt performers are fake fighters while claiming he could defeat them in real life. Offended by Lee's attitude, Cliff challenges him to a fight and easily throws him into a car. What was Tarantino trying to accomplish with this scene? I've come up with several possible explanations. First, perhaps he simply wanted to mock Bruce Lee. I don't believe this is likely. Tarantino has long been an admirer of Hong Kong cinema and Asian martial arts films. In Kill Bill, for example, the bride famously wears the yellow jumpsuit inspired by Bruce Lee in Game of Death. It would be strange for Tarantino to deliberately disrespect someone he clearly admires. Second, perhaps the scene exists to remind us that this is an alternate history version of reality. Even so, Bruce Lee was a real historical figure with enormous cultural significance. Audiences don't see Cliff Booth defeating a fictional martial artist. They see Brad Pitt defeating Bruce Lee himself. Imagine an alternate history Japanese film portraying Admiral Yi Sun-sin as a coward or making him the butt of a joke. Most Korean audiences probably wouldn't appreciate it. That's why this scene felt uncomfortable to me. Third, maybe the scene simply establishes how strong Cliff Booth really is. If that's the case, I still think Tarantino chose the wrong person. Using a beloved real-life icon to build up a fictional character feels unnecessary. Finally, perhaps Tarantino was criticizing the way Bruce Lee has been mythologized by some fans, particularly in China and Hong Kong. This is the explanation I wanted to believe the most because Tarantino is my favorite director. While it's true that Bruce Lee is sometimes treated as an almost mythical figure, that myth exists because of his extraordinary achievements. Watching the scene, I never felt Tarantino was criticizing hero worship. It simply came across as Bruce Lee being portrayed in an unnecessarily negative light. To this day, I'm still not entirely sure what Tarantino intended. Final thoughts. Watching the Manson family receive their fictional punishment was immensely satisfying. The recreation of 1969 Hollywood is astonishingly authentic, and the performances by Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt are exceptional. The soundtrack is another reminder that few directors understand the relationship between music and cinema, as well as Quentin Tarantino. At the same time, I couldn't shake the feeling that Sharon Tate's storyline lacked a meaningful purpose, and the Bruce Lee sequence remains one of the film's most questionable creative decisions. Despite those criticisms, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is still an unforgettable tribute to an era of filmmaking that Tarantino clearly loves with all his heart. Favorite quotes: Tarantino's satisfying revenge against the Manson family. A flawless recreation of Hollywood in 1969. Sharon Tate, please stop showing up. Tarantino's love letter to Hollywood. But why Bruce Lee? 4.5 stars, 7 out of 10.